Now, Craig, I don't know how you're going to be able to follow up on this, Mr. Leinauer, but I'm speaking to you right now. What is going on, sir? How are you?
No, everything's going great, and it's great to be back. And yeah, a lot of Craig's on the show today, right?
Oh,
That was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
it was pretty impressive, and I think you're gonna have an even more impressive feat here on What the Truck. I'm so happy you're back. First of all, I know you're no stranger to the show, but it is your debut with me here, so I appreciate you for being on the show, and you look great today, man.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. You look great too.
I
Again,
appreciate it.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be here.
Glad you are here, man. A little sweater weather never did anybody any good. So we'll try to bundle up today. And obviously, I want to talk about, you're looking at transportation claims all day long, and you're noticing that certain trends in broker liability are beginning to stand out. Can you top line the trends for us exactly?
Yeah, the biggest trend without question is the contractual assumption of liability by freight brokers. And you have to remember that brokers, by the nature of what they do, aren't really supposed to be liable for lost or damaged cargo. It's the motor carrier who's supposed to be, right? And that's because the freight broker doesn't actually handle the freight. They serve as an intermediary. They arrange for the transportation, between the shipper and the trucking company. But what
Right.
happens is contract terms make the broker fully liable, or can make the broker fully liable, I should say, for damage to cargo, as if they were a trucker. And by the way, the standard of liability for a trucker is strict liability for cargo loss, subject to some defenses that they have, and also the ability to limit liability to less than the actual value of the load that's being carried. So what we're seeing is increasingly brokers are executing very one-sided contracts that make them strictly liable for freight damage or loss without any defenses or liability limitations, which typically are afforded, a motor carrier. So then, when things go bad, the broker faces huge, huge catastrophic losses.
That's not good. That's not good at all. Now, what else is trending aside from contractual assumption of risk? What else is out there?
Yeah. So the other thing we're all hearing about, of course, is the increase in sophisticated cargo theft claims.
Right.
And with artificial intelligence, I have to tell you that this is just getting even more sophisticated. And so here's what we're seeing happening. The US DOT assigns motor carrier numbers, MC numbers to all transportation firms who operate commercial vehicles. And these, of course, are crucial for the government to track compliance with safety standards and that kind of thing. But what we're seeing is criminals now getting a hold of old or outdated MC numbers to present themselves as legit companies with an established operating history. And this tricks freight brokers into hiring them because it looks to the freight broker like, this company has years of operating history. And so this deception will allow that thief to fly under the radar until it's really too late. So, for example, I just recently saw a freight broker who was unknowingly working with a trucking company that had been sold to a new criminal owner. The DOT had already revoked the authority, but the new buyer had quickly restored it, and this was allowing it to obtain shipments from freight brokers. So multiple freight brokers were sending freight to this trucking company, who in turn was stealing the shipments and never delivering them.
I see. I see. Now, you mentioned AI in this previous segment, but really talk to us because it's making sophisticated theft even more sophisticated. Can you explain this exactly to us and the listeners as well?
Yeah, so this is the latest tool, AI, that thieves are using to commit fraud, basically.
Right.
And so what's happening is AI and advanced technology allows you to create counterfeit documents. And these documents look so realistic that really nobody thinks to question them. So, for example, scanned bills of lading or shipping paperwork can be altered with AI to look virtually flawless. And then, what's happening is even big retail shippers are being fooled because the paperwork looks so legitimate. So we've seen thieves providing, freight brokers with tech altered documents, suggesting that the original load was delivered intact, and then turning around and collecting freight charges in addition to stealing the cargo.
Now, talk to us a little bit about this cluster theft kind of theme because it's not only highly organized, but it's a pretty darn smart way to kind of get around this. Talk to us about cluster theft specifically, if you don't mind, Craig.
No, and it's amazing, really, we hadn't seen any this type of scam, this cluster theft scam, we hadn't seen really until 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and so I'll explain to you what it is, and basically, this is how it works. It involves thieves who have knowledge of the shipment origin and destination procedures, of shipping procedures. So here's what they do. They pick up a full load. The original paperwork is scanned and altered to reflect a new piece count, weight, and sometimes even a new trailer or a seal number. And then these modified documents using AI reflect what's left in the trailer after a part of the shipment has been removed, right? Stolen. So they pick up, for example, 10 pallets, but the documents are now altered to show that they only picked up 8. So then what happens is this shorted load, along with the altered paperwork, are in turn presented for delivery, usually at a large, very busy regional distribution center, who accepts the load as complete because the quantity unloaded matches the modified documents. Then, and this is where it gets crazy, the shorted shipment isn't discovered until an accounting and inventory reconciliation happens, right? And this can take sometimes weeks or months. And it's in this delay. This is the clever part. It's in this delay that the thieves exploit the delay to short as many of these loads as possible before the theme gets discovered, right? So hence
Right.
we call it a cluster theft. It's really a whole bunch of thefts happening. And then what's even crazier is many times the company's automated ordering system will replenish missing inventory, sort of fueling the theft before the theft is detected, and this perpetuates the loss, right? So a cluster theft scam like this can run undetected for a long time. I've seen them run, in one instance, as long as 8 to 10 months, involving dozens of shipments. I've seen them up to 60 shipments, and resulting in seven-figure multi-million-dollar losses.
That is insane, and I'm sure, when it comes to these efforts, the ROI has to be extremely lucrative for these thieves and these heists that are happening. This is absolutely nuts. Now, normally at this point of the show, right, we
Right,
oftentimes like to tell, brokers, you can do this to protect yourself, right, when it comes to this
right,
topic.
right.
What would you say to all the brokers out there to issue a kind of a level rather of protection?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it, but
Yeah.
basically, what it comes down to is this: you need to pay attention at the front end. You need to understand that distribution centers are busy and they rely on automation, and criminals have learned to exploit this automation. So you can't always assume that the paperwork is legit. So one thing that a broker can do to protect itself is to require the shipper to send the origin paperwork to the recipient. Get the original paperwork directly from the shipper. And then if everyone shares the same origin paperwork, and then a carrier shows up with a different set of documents, then that exposes, a potential problem. And then also, listen, be aware as a freight broker of the contract that you're entering into. Specifically, you should know when you are agreeing to be liable like a trucking company. These one-sided contracts can mean millions and millions of dollars in losses to you.
Right. Now, I know that we are almost out of time on this segment, so I want you to just give us everything in a nutshell. What is the biggest message that you want listeners to take away from today off of this segment, Craig?
Yeah, yeah. If I had to sum it up, I would say broker liability, as many folks know, is a compound, complex problem, right? So not only are thieves evolving faster than the industry by mixing old tricks with advanced technology like AI, but brokers are also getting caught in the middle and getting pushed into liability by one-sided contracts.
Definitely, definitely. Again, Craig Leinauer with Travelers. Craig, thank you so much, man. I cannot wait to see you back on this show. It's make sure that it's not so late next time, and we can't go this amount of time without it. So I'm gonna have to see you really soon.
Absolutely. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you so much, Craig. Again, Craig with Travelers.